Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome each and every one of you to a new League of Legends video. So I don't know about you guys, but one of the most fun aspects of League of Legends has to be the Mastery page, and now that they revamped it to the point where almost every choice feels like it impacts your game, well, it's even more interesting now. I'm all about choices and having options, so this is something I always like to look very closely at, and whenever they do any form of changes, especially big ones, well, I'm all about that. So I'm sure you've already guessed that this video is going to be focusing on the Masteries, because not only have there been changes, but they've also added 2 new Mastery talents in the trees. And in a few seconds, when I actually tell you guys the 2 new Mastery talents, well, I think you'll understand why I'm more interested in these ones specifically than usual. So throughout this video, first we'll talk about the 2 new Mastery additions, and then we'll talk about the other important changes done to the already existing Masteries. So let's talk about the first one, that is called Assassin. I mean, that in itself is already enough for me to be excited about. But as you see on your screen right now, it is in the cunning tree in the second row, and it offers this bonus. Deal 1.5% increased damage when no allied champions are nearby. So just for a clarification, in case people are wondering, based on the wording of this mastery, this implies that you don't have any allied champions nearby, not the target you're trying to kill, or I guess the enemy. So it's actually the opposite of how Kha'Zix's Q ability works. So what does this talent really mean? Well, it clearly further enforces the split pushing path for assassins and to make solo picks. A lot of assassin and fighter type champions like Zed, Yasuo, Fizz maybe, Fiora, Jax, Riven are already very strong when it comes to 1v1 scenarios and also split pushing, but this even further makes them better at that. But the cool thing about this is that it doesn't only work when you're split pushing, because during the laning phase, assuming you're not bot lane, this also comes into effect. Now if your jungler decides to gank for you, or you're the jungle player and you gank for a laner, then you're obviously going to be losing this temporarily. But other than that, this will come into effect for the majority of your laning phase, and this is actually quite massive, especially when you hear what the next mastery does. The one sort of weird thing about this mastery, however, is where Riot decided to put it. I mean, it is in the second row of the cunning tree next to the biscuit option and the longer buff duration. It seems like this mastery and what it offers has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with the other 2 that it's besides, so again, it does feel somewhat awkward. But other than that, it is a pretty cool mastery. But next, let's talk about the second new mastery that is also being added, which I think is really interesting. So as a quick note, it is not added to the tree itself just yet. However, all the files and the information about this mastery have been added to the PvE according to Surrender at 20. So first of all, it's called Murderous Intent, and what it offers is you deal 5% more damage to champions until you gain a kill or assist. And yes, you heard that correctly, until you gain a kill or assist. So of course, if you finally do get that kill or assist, well, you're losing this mastery altogether and you're more or less down 1 mastery. However, on the flip side, don't forget that that is a total of 5% more damage you're getting to champions on a mastery that is not a keystone, or at least I don't think it will be. So I think it goes without saying that this is ideal for assassins and snowball-y type champions, because all this really means is that, you know what, you're going to be going very aggressive in the laning phase. You're going to be going for that early kill with this extra 5% damage, and you're going to be trying to snowball off of that. So the intent of this one does obviously seem to buff your laning phase and make it even stronger. I mean, the meta is currently to win the laning phase, snowball, and win the game as fast as possible, so this complements that quite well. Now imagine if you have this mastery, you have the assassin one I just talked about, you have Merciless, which deals bonus damage to targets under 40% HP, and you have Oppressor dealing 2.5% bonus damage to targets that are CC'd. That's a total of 14% increased damage. And the last thing to talk about with this mastery specifically is, well, where is it gonna go? So we already know that the assassin one is of course in the cunning tree in the second row, but if I had to guess, Murderous Intent will be in the ferocity tree, whether it's in the second row or maybe the 4th row, since Murderous Intent is very similar to Bounty Hunter, Oppressor, and Double-Edged Sword. But then it makes things confusing when you consider where Assassin was placed, again beside 2 masteries that don't really relate to each other whatsoever. But the main thing about it is that we know what it does, and we know Riot's intent behind these changes. So it seems like Riot is putting a lot of focus to assassin and snowball-y champions, and specifically the AD assassins, because what I'll talk about next even further backs this up. So now we're quite aware of what Riot potentially, or most likely, has their sights on in terms of buffing and making them even better. And naturally, as someone that actually really enjoys playing these types of champions, I'm actually very excited. So next, let's talk about some of the small changes they're doing to the already existing including masteries and keystones. So first we have Deathfire Touch, where they're increasing the base damage of it up to 8 from 6, but it now takes 4 seconds to deal the total damage rather than 3. Not entirely sure how I feel about this. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Deathfire Touch to begin with, but I mean, a 2 damage base increase is really quite irrelevant, and the fact that it takes a full second longer to deal its total damage now is also quite bad. So I guess we'll see how it plays out when it finally comes onto the live servers. The next change we have is Fervor of Battle, where now it only gains its stacks and charges whenever you only hit enemy champions, not just hitting anything in general, but at least now you have a full extra second to keep the charges before they get lost. This is definitely a big hit because now chances are you're going to be starting a fight with 0 charges of Fervor of Battle, because I mean, you obviously can't get any charges unless you do hit an enemy champion, so this is not super good. But then on the bright side, the savior of masteries, we have Thunderlord's Decree, the mastery that everyone and their mother now uses in League of Legends because of just how useful it is, especially for the current meta. Well, the cool thing now is that this has increased its AD ratio by 10%, further backing up how Riot seems to be focusing a bit more on the AD type champions. Then after this we have Bond of Stone, where the damage reduction now is 3% from 2%, and the damage to ally transfer now is 6% over 8 instead. Just thought I would throw that in there since Bond of Stone is considered one of the better defensive masteries. But another really cool change, or at least I think it is Precision, where the armor penetration now is just flat out higher at every rank of this mastery, even further backing up that Riot is trying to buff up the AD type champions, especially the AD fighters and assassins. And last but not least, Unyielding now gives less bonus MR and armor. So those right there, guys, are the changes to the masteries and the 2 new ones that are going to be added soon to the live servers. Again, I do think that the first 2 are really cool and really interesting, and I'm definitely excited for them, especially because this also clearly means that Riot is putting some focus on AD assassin and fighters. So if you did enjoy this video or learn something new, definitely hit the like button to show your support. Subscribe if you haven't. Make sure to share this with your friends so everyone is aware of what's coming to League of Legends. Make sure to check out the other videos as well, like my Zed full game commentary that a lot of people have been requesting, and I'll see you guys for the next video. Peace.